In this segment, I'll introduce you to more specific window operator types. I'll bring out some highlights of each and point out some hidden similarities among them. So when you're done, I'm going to quiz you. So know those operator types, some highlights, and some similarities. Okay, let's get started. Operating windows compared to fixed windows are more common, at least in residential applications. Two advantages they have over fixed windows is that they allow venting, and more importantly, may qualify for emergency egress. There are a lot of operator types out there. Let's start with the sliders. Double hungs are the most common in the slider family. Both sash operate and are hung from balance hardware mounted on the sides within the frame. Thus the term double hung. When either sash is moved, the balance mechanism is designed to help balance the weight of the sash and hold it in place where it was left. Handles are sometimes mounted to the bottom of the lower sash, or some type of grasp, and the window is locked where the two sash meet. Weather stripping is incorporated into the balances, usually, to meet the sides of each sash, plus at the top of the window frame, between the two sash where they meet, and at the bottom of the lower sash. If the top sash is fixed, and only the bottom sash operates, then, you guessed it, it's a single hung. Similar to double and single hung windows is the horizontal slider, sometimes called a glider. Many features as just described about hung windows are the same, except that the sash slide on a track at the bottom of the frame. This could have both sash that operate, and even multiple sash. Let's move on to swingers. A casement window is by far the most common of the swingers. They're often referred to as crankouts by consumers because of the crank and mechanism used to swing the sash to the exterior. As the crank is turned, the mechanism at the bottom pushes out the sash as the sash pivots from floating pins at the bottom and top. When closed, the sash compresses against weather stripping on all four sides and is drawn in tight by one or more lever locks on the vertical, opposite the opening mechanisms. Some versions simply push out by hand and use a retention rod of some sort. There are in-swing versions as well, which are also drawn in by hand. Now, outswing casement sash will open up to nearly 90 degrees. Because outswing casements open up so far, they offer the most total clear opening compared to almost any other type of window, given the same frame size. This makes them a more likely candidate to meet egress requirements because egress requirements, in part, require a minimum clear opening size. More about egress and egress-specific windows in another segment. A French casement is two sash within a single casement frame. These might crank out or push out. Yet another popular outswing unit that's in the casement family is an awning. This is hinged at the top and swings to the exterior at the bottom. The mechanics are very similar as for a casement, same type of sash and frame and compression weather stripping. There's a variation of this too when the sash swings to the interior and is usually hinged at the bottom. This is called a hopper by most manufacturers, and for some might be interchanged with the term basement. Awnings and hoppers typically have very limited opening clearance and would rarely, if ever, qualify for egress. And the last two window types I'd like to finish with are unique, but they are gaining in popularity. The first one breaks the swing slide generalization. Why not a parallel opening design, whereby the sash pushes straight out to the exterior while staying parallel to the frame? The structure of this one too is similar to a casement, except for the movement of the sash. Like casements, when closed, the locks pull the sash tightly to the frame. Unlike casements, the opening amount is very limited. And finally, there is the tilt-turn, which is pretty awesome. The unique operating hardware allows this European design window to both tilt to the interior at the top and also swing to the interior, independently of course. These tend to be larger units, and the tilt-in amount is usually very limited. However, the in-swing opens much like a door, so this can be a good candidate for egress. Okay, let's see what you've learned. As you advance through the question slides, pause until you have your answer. Keep in mind, there may be more than one correct answer. So here we go. A and B are the right answers. The two sash lock to each other where they meet, and the balances, located in the sides of the frame, assist with lifting and hold the sash in place when released. Only the bottom sash operates on a single hung, yet they both operate on a double hung. If you selected A and C, you are right. They can provide emergency egress, but only if they qualify, and of course an operable window will allow ventilation. Only some casement versions open with a crank mechanism. C is the correct answer. Outswing casements swing open to nearly 90 degrees. Awnings and hoppers usually have a very limited opening, and a double-hung clear opening can at most only be slightly less than the size of one sash. C and D. Horizontal sliders, as the name implies, and double hungs which slide vertically are in the slider family. Tilt-turns are swinger combinations that tilt in and swing inward to one side. Parallel openers are not really a slider or a swinger. They do their own thing. I hope you chose B and C. Obviously, in-swing casements are a part of the casement family, as well as awnings because they have a very similar structure and mechanics. Horizontal sliders are related to double hungs, but are not related to casements. None of the above. Only windows that operate and qualify in clear opening size can be considered for egress windows. Did you select B and C? Horizontal sliders can have multiple sash, all of which rest or glide on a bottom track. While both horizontal sliders and double hungs are in the slider family, there are some differences, aside from orientation, between a double hung and a slider. C and D. Most casements swing from floating pins. A casement with two sash within a single frame is a French casement. Casements compress the sash against their weather stripping, not slide, and open-in versions are drawn in by hand, not cranked in. I bet you chose A and C. This European design is not new to the world, only to North America. These open to the interior, whereby they tilt in at the top or swing in like a door, but not at the same time, of course. In one sense, they are part hopper and part in-swing casement. A and C are correct. It's in the casement family because of a similar frame and sash, and that when closed, the sash compresses against weather stripping and is pulled tight with the locks. However, the sash won't open very far. The sash pushes out to the exterior in the same plane, but will not tilt. A and D. Now this can be confusing. An awning window resembles a conventional awning in that it sheds water but allows ventilation. A hopper is kind of the opposite of an awning, as if you flipped it upside down and rotated it outside to inside. Don't do that, by the way. I'm sure you did well. Coming up, fixed windows and then doors.